Hi everybody, Dr. Samantha Luther, pediatric and prenatal chiropractor here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I am so excited to be bringing you guys this webinar today. It is one of my favorites and one of my favorite topics, actually some of my favorite clients to take care of. Today we're gonna be talking about ADHD and sensory kiddos and kind of what's going on there, what's happening. We'll be talking about the top three most common categories that we see in my office. They have some funny names that go with them, and like you'll kind of, understand. I'll be like, yeah, oh yeah, that's it. Or like, and you'll also hear maybe today, that describes my kid to a T, like holy cow. But what's so neat about that is that then as a parent, if I heard this and someone's saying these things, I'm gonna sit there and go, okay, so like I'm not crazy, or like I'm not a bad parent by how like I react to how my kid's behaving because it's so either erratic or too much or hyperactive, and like I'm feeling like I can't control myself, and then I have outburst emotions and whatnot that might not be healthy for me and also for my kids. So it's kind of nice to be able to feel like you're heard for once. I hope I can do that for you today because you are killing it, you're doing great, you're being great as parents, but like sometimes I hope that there's just this missing link that I can help you guys find and help put that missing link in that little chain there, so then therefore it's a chain that actually becomes super useful versus one you're going, I'm so lost and I'm at my wit's end and I don't know what else to do. So with that being said, we're going to be doing this webinar here today, but then next week we'll be having an in-house workshop and we'll be diving into the neurology here a little bit today. Not a lot, but like at that workshop next week, that's where we would. So go ahead and message me and I'll give you my information at the end, or I guess I'll just give it to you now. Just message me at sjlwellness@gmail.com. Excuse me, and I'll get you registered for that, because there are some, my office is only so big and I can only have so many people in there, but we'll get you guys registered and we will go from there. So with ADHD and sensory kiddos, this has become a lot more prevalent, I feel, in recent years, even up to a decade or so. It just keeps increasing, it keeps getting more and more, and I feel like this just needs to be addressed. And there's nothing that like you have done as a parent, there's nothing like that your kid has done. It's just all of this stuff that we're gonna be talking about today that kind of goes into why and how like their little systems are become overstimulated, overwhelmed, and their outward behaviors and their outward actions are just almost like a little tea kettle that eventually just goes beep. We've all heard that tea kettle before. That's what's kind of going on with your kiddo there. But like I say, we're gonna be talking about those three most common categories that we talk about in our office. And like, so like there's so many labels out there, from ADD to ADHD to sensory to spectrum to all of those. And like some kiddos then have been labeled that way. And they've been labeled, oh, but he has ADHD. We don't label kids in our office. They are just a small human that has these challenges, and those challenges are okay. I even actually consider them superpowers within those little kiddos, because they just have so much of this going on within them, but like they're still trying, they're still doing, they're still going about life as every other person that may not struggle with some of these things. They're still going on with life and continuing to do the absolute best that they can. But then once they're giving help, and once we are put that missing link into like their care plan or their treatment or what parents have been doing with them, what they've gone through up into that point is awesome. It's fantastic. And once we talk about all of the stressors that they have going on with their body, think as a parent or as an adult yourself, if you had all of those, how you would be reacting. And these are these little kids. They're killing it. They're doing so good. And like once we apply like the help that they can get, they're only gonna flourish so much more. So they're some of my favorites. You can learn a lot from them. They'll tell you a lot of stuff, and it's just so neat to see them and see their working with these kids and see their personalities start to shine through, and see that they're not, labeled this, and then like that kind of gives them maybe a little bit of a stigma almost on themselves. And like we look at them, we take care of them just in a different manner. It's so great to see. They're my favorites. But like I say, we call kids here, we don't call them by their labels, we call them by their names, or Jackson or Micah or Sally or Chloe. We have all of these kids that like they're just these humans, they're individuals, and we're just helping them express the way that they can in a natural, healthy way. So With that being said though, I'll continue to use some of the terminology so then we're able to, you know, go on at the same pace here. But with ADHD and sensory, they're very different, but they can kind of present in the same or similar or a, you know, similar manner. But with that, there's always going to be this rippling effect that goes on. And so like when it starts on so early, and like we're talking about kiddos anywhere from 3 to 17 years old. And so the earlier that it kind of goes on, we talk about a rippling effect, and the more that they get older, and like the more that we don't kind of nip this in the bud from the beginning and help these kiddos get calmed back down, it's going to cause a rippling effect in everything from, you know, relationships even within their family, like with their siblings, with you, mom and dad, relationships with other friends, as they get older, relationships that they might get into, you know, they might have a girlfriend in high school, you know, or college or something like that. That's going to constantly affect those things. It's going to constantly affect kind of like how, you know, the dynamic within your family, and then just also with their everyday activities and going through their life. There's just this rippling effect. But once again, going into these 3 categories, as chiropractors and in my office, we do amazing like neurological scans that allow us to see these kids, and each one of these categories, those scans are going to present differently. And these scans let us know how their nervous system is functioning, how much energy their body is putting out, and how their body is adapting to it, because each of these 3 kinds of kiddos, their energy levels are going to all be a little bit different. And we'll be talking about how majority, it's so high energy that one of them even becomes kind of tipped over energy, and they start to like, you know, close in, clam up. We'll be getting to that. But we talk about the scans a lot in my office. We get to the root cause of what's going on with them and their nervous system, and you'll be understanding this here very, very soon. With these 3 categories, they have funny names to them, funny, you know, ways that we describe them in our office. So please don't take any offense to like the names that we give them. No, we don't consider like we put bull at the end of these. No, your kid's not a bull. We're not making fun of, like, this is just almost how they like present, how much energy they have. And if you can kind of picture this within your kiddo, these are just kind of the terms that I've been kind of working with, I've been trained with, that has made the most sense with parents. Like I say, no, please don't take any, like, you can put like what I'm saying here and put another term in if you would like, but this is just what we have gone with. It'll make sense. Once again, we don't focus on like the ADHD, the sensory, and this. We focus on what's going on with their nervous system and what we can do about it. But we're going to be getting to what's going on and why. And this just kind of helps help parents understand. It makes parents feel empowered, and that's what I'm all about, is empowering and educating parents. So then like they don't feel like they're losing their marbles. They don't feel like, I am never going to have control over my kid like I thought I could. My kid's always going to be this way, and it's always going to be stressful, and it's always going to be hard, and I don't know what to do. Like, no, let's help you parents understand, and let's help you get to like understanding the root cause, so then you're able to be like, okay, this makes some sense. So starting off, so we have 3 categories, and here they are. Here come those awesome names. We have a raging bull, and it's like, you can imagine what a raging bull looks like or acts like. We have a drunken bull. Yes, so imagine a drunken bull. So we'll get to that. And then we have a combination of the 2. We have a raging and drunken bull. That's a combo of those 2. So to dive in with our raging bull kids, they are the ones that are going to have that a whole host of ADHD, hyperactivity, constantly moving on the go, 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 go. And like I say, we're talking anywhere from 3 to 17. So if you have kiddos in this range, be thinking about your kiddo here that you might be going like, oh my gosh, this is totally him or her. They will also, this is kind of interesting, they'll also be craving high carb foods. And the reason for that being is because their body's in a constant, like they're in a constant marathon mode. Like they do not stop. Like I have a friend that she's like, oh my gosh, like I literally get 18,000 steps a day on my little Fitbit because I'm constantly chasing him, because he's constantly going and he does not stop. That's what I'm talking about. Like the go, 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 crazy, crazy, crazy. They crave those high carbs because they need those carbs to replenish all the fuel that they're burning within their body. They like, you know, fruits and vegetables for them ain't gonna do it. They need like all those high carb foods. These kiddos will also have a low awareness to danger. Anyone have a kiddo like that, that they are on the countertop and they are jumping off? They go crashing into a wall. They go running almost out into the street. Like they just don't have any of that awareness of danger because like they're just on that. We are going and we are flighting as much as we possibly can. They're in that constant, what we call in our profession, a fight or flight mode. We've all kind of been in a situation where it's a scary situation and our fight or flight response kicks on and it's like, bam, we got to get the heck out of Dodge. We might be being chased by a bear because that happens so much in Nebraska. It's unbelievable. Just kidding. But like, it's that moment of like, we just got to go, go, go. We don't have time to rest, stop, and relax. These kids are in that constant fight or flight mode, which is also then a stress response, which we'll get to. And I have my notes behind, so I'm just, if you see me checking, that's what I'm doing there. And like their baseline level of danger, like we talked about, they have no perception or real threat of danger. That is their baseline. That is their normal. What we might find as dangerous or a threat, they don't at all. That's their baseline. So it takes something pretty extravagant to kind of shock their little system. So that you'll be seeing that with your kiddos. So like if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, totally, I get it. So what we're talking about with all of that and like with those reactions is what they're doing is they're making their outside, so like their actions, behaviors, match what they're feeling on the inside. Okay, we'll be getting into that. So kind of be thinking, okay, so like that's how much energy and how much is going on within their kiddo, that the only reason for them to adapt to that is to act in this manner, hyperactive, go, go, go. No perceived threat of danger whatsoever or a dangerous activity. They're just in a constant spin. Their mind is constantly going. For adults, the way I like to equivalent this to adults, I'm a coffee lover, love coffee, but have you ever had one cup of coffee too much? And then you get really jittery? You get like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack or heart attack, or you just can't calm down? Exactly what these kiddos feel 24/7. Now with our coffee, it'll wear off eventually. These kiddos, that energy, their heightened level of fight or flight, their heightened level of their stress response is in that constant, it's cooking, it's always going. It never shuts down. So think about that, equivalating what us as adults might go through to what they're going through. They're not gonna be sleeping then. Their brain is always kicked on. They might complain like they might not sleep. And so then if they're not sleeping, and they wake up, that increases the stress response. The only way then that for these kids, like more stress fuels more of their stress. Like it doesn't, like they don't wake up and be like, oh, I'm tired. Nope, they are gonna go 1,000 miles an hour again. And usually with these kids, the only way that they finally ever fall asleep is their gas tank eventually is completely on fumes. They get up at 6 a.m., they go, 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 and finally by 10 p.m., they have nothing left in the tank and they finally crash. These are those kids. Like they don't want to take a nap. They are not slowing down until literally every ounce of reserve energy is depleted and they finally just crash. Like I say, with these kids, that amount of high stress that they're, and like you're thinking, well, what do you mean by stress? Like my kids don't have stress. Well, like stress for them is being redirected. Stress for them, like as in, you know, scolding or not, you know, whatever, being redirected. Or if their sibling took a toy from them, that's a stress for them. Or if you tell them to clean their room, another stress for them that triggers them. And tell them to, you know, do their homework, another stress for them when they don't want to, because their energy is so building up. Those stresses just keep adding on. They're not having to worry about mortgage repayments and bills and groceries and putting food on the table, but these are their stresses for them. So these keep adding up and adding up and adding up, and eventually you're gonna have a meltdown because their system is so overwhelmed that bam, it blows up into a meltdown. They're high stress, and this is just even with a kiddo that doesn't have these challenges, or even adults that don't have any challenges. The more stress we get built up within our body, the only way that it can manifest in is kind of turn into anxiety, because it's just it's almost like in a way that we talk about is you either have you have your gas pedal and you have your brake pedal. Our gas pedal is the one that we are going, 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 going. And this is what so many of these kids and even adults in our day and age, gas pedal is ramped on. That can't sustain. So eventually that's going to kick into an overstimulated, overwhelmed nervous system. And what do we feel whenever we're anxious? Overstimulated, overwhelmed, nervous, burnout, all of those things. It's almost like your, what's the term that I use? Oh, I'll come to it. Wired but tired. There you go. Wired but tired. Like you just still keep going because you're wired. We need to apply that braking system, and that's with chiropractic what we're able to do, and we'll get to that. We apply the brakes to slow us back down to instill calmness within the body. So that's where we need to get that balance of gas pedal versus brake pedal. We will get to that. So some other things just to kind of keep going with these raging bulls, they have little remorse for things that they do. So they can't conceptualize maybe if they've hurt someone or if they take like their sibling's toy and rips it from them. They're also going to then have outward emotions of like biting, hitting, you know, even grinding their teeth. But going back to like the little remorse, once they've hit someone, they don't have it within them to understand, because they're still going on to the next thing, that they don't stop to think like, oh, that was wrong and maybe I shouldn't have hit them, because they're on to the next thing so fast already that they don't have much of that remorse of like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, because they can't take that time to go, oh darn, nope, they're gone, they're on to the next thing. These kiddos, you're also going to see lack of focus, you know, even with our young ones, even if they're not in school, but our school age kiddos, they're also going to maybe have some issues and suffering with some speech things, as well as, like I say, school difficulties. Grades might be suffering because they don't have the attention to focus. They're sitting here doing, you know, their math problems, but then all of a sudden something else is going on over here. Bam, they got to go there, because they're always on to the next thing. They're go, 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 constantly spinning, constantly spinning. So that's kind of what they're going on, what's going on there. And it's like whenever we get to the scans within these kids, what's in like the neurological scanning system that we use kind of helps us. It doesn't help us. What it does is it lets us know the amount of energy that these kiddos' bodies is using all the time. And we always want that, and like if I had the scans here to show, we always want that to be around 100. A lot of these kiddos show up into that 400, 500 points of energy within their body. We want to calm that back down. They don't need that much energy going through within their body, so we need to calm that back down. And with chiropractic, there's different parts of our nervous system. So like when I talked about that gas pedal, that's our sympathetic nervous system. It's our fight or flight response as well as our stress response that many of us feel on the day-to-day basis maybe. But then we also, have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest, digest, relax, calm, grow, develop stage. What of all of those sounds like a kiddo between the ages of 3 and 17 need? Rest, yes. Good digestion, yes. Healing, yes. Growing, yes. Development, yes. All of these things are what kiddos need. And so if they're so much stuck in that fight or flight response or that stress mode, their body isn't going to have time for that. All those good healing, growing, developing things that we need them to be doing. So another thing too, these kiddos are going to have issues with digestion. They're going to have poor digestion. They're going to show constipation, tummy aches sometimes even too, because their system is just so overcooked and so going. But once again, if we just kind of help make that high, and people might have some parents ask like, well, isn't it good for my kid to have high energy? Yeah, it is, as long as they're using it in an effective manner. But if they're constantly on that gas pedal, that's not using energy effectively, and they're eventually going to, cause their nervous system become so stressed, so taxed, so overwhelmed that it wants to crash and wants to, then turn inward. And that leads us now into the drunken bull. And so with the drunken bull, these are the kiddos that are still spinning, but so much that they've tipped over into a whole new realm that they now clam up or turn inward or become very disconnected. So like their system has ring, and it's almost like bam, crashes. It's almost like ramping up the gas pedal until the gas runs out in your car. it crashes. Everything kind of turns in for them. They have trouble connecting the dots. So once again, everything about a person that might be intoxicated, they're drunken. Like they aren't able to put everything together. All the pieces aren't quite making sense for them because their system has become so overtaxed. Like I say, they just turn inward, and then they're gonna start to have issues with balance. So when we talk about the drunken bull, balance, coordination, lots of clumsiness within their physical movements. So you're gonna see that with them. A lot of social anxiety with these kiddos, the drunken bulls, lots of social anxiety. Their scans, they're gonna show like a moderate level of activity. They don't have the huge amount like energy levels that we have on the raging bull, because their system has honestly capped out, so that energy is going to be a little bit more moderate. But their body, it's like with going back to the raging bulls have like moderate body symmetry. Drunken bulls is going to be low body symmetry. So from looking from the right side to the left side on these scans, it's going to show big differences within there, because like the clumsiness, the balance, all of this has just kind of been kicked. The nervous system has been so overtaxed. It's kind of kicked into like a dormant stage. So they've kind of, like I say, these ones, it takes a little bit more time to kind of get them going. It's like what we mean with like the nervous system and how this all happens, and like the coordination and the balance and all of this, and like the calming and all of that. Our nervous system controls and coordinates every system within our body, every function, every movement, every action. And so if that is anywhere stressed or taxed or overwhelmed, that's not going to be happening. And so organizing and coordination, this isn't going to be a thing that's going to be happening with these kiddos because their system's so overdone. So with these kids, let me check my notes here, they take input. Okay, so with our nervous system and how like we take on stresses and how we adapt to them, every kind of input that these kids get, from visual to textile to hearing to tasting and all of that, we have to somehow adapt. I mean, respond, like take that in, sense it, adapt and process it, and then know what to do with it. And so with these kids, and with all, I shouldn't even say with kids, with all clients, like if our body's unable to adapt to these ever-changing things that our body's sensing within our environment, our nervous system once again is going to become overtaxed and overwhelmed and not be able to adapt. We're all about adapting to our environment. We need our nervous system to be able to do that by kicking out of that stress response and into that calm response. And so that's what we kind of talk about within our nervous system and how chiropractic is able to help there. And we'll get to that here once again. Let me take just a quick break here because I need to change my battery, and I'll be right back. Okay. And so that's the drunken bull. So now going into the raging, and let me just go back to the drunken bull and like in a quick analogy here. So if those of you who've watched I Love Lucy, like whenever she's like in the chocolate factory, this is one of my favorite ones, and I didn't even watch it all that much, but whenever she's in the chocolate factory and they have, you know, like the chocolates coming down, and if you haven't seen this, Google it, like Lucy Ball, like I Love Lucy chocolate factory episode. But anyway, she has all these chocolates that are coming down the conveyor belt. And it's like with these kids and being able to adapt to all the different stressors that are coming in, this is the analogy I like to use. So within the first, you know, couple minutes there, the chocolates are coming at a nice, easy pace, you know, and she's able to wrap them up, put them in a nice little foil and move them down the conveyor belt. And so but then they thought, well, gosh, if we can do this faster, that's going to be even better. So versus having like 20 per minute coming down the conveyor belt, now they have like 50, then they have 75, then they have 100. So like then they're trying to like, you know, take care of all these chocolates and not get in trouble by the supervisor. And so they end up like crushing them into their shirt, putting them down their pants, putting them anywhere, stuffing them into their mouth. That's what these kiddos are feeling with the amount of stresses and the amount of things that they're having taken from their environment. And if they eventually can't, they're shoving things so many places down into their body that the way that they react is, bam, we have to get rid of all of this. So that's the reactions that we're getting out of these kids. So that kind of makes a little bit of sense, like keeping up with all of those, you eventually can't. And that goes the same for adults. These just aren't with these kiddos. That goes to the same for adults as well. And so going to now moving on to the drunken raging bull, what happens with these is we have a combination of both. They're the most challenging. They are still able to be helped and worked with, and that's what's beautiful, but they are both. They have so much energy, but they have no coordination or organization. They are on complete and utter overwhelm. They are having meltdowns. They are turning in and disconnecting, but then also being hyperactive, all within a day. So there's so much going on here. And these are the kiddos that we like to, they're kind of what our spectrum cases then. This, you know, we've all heard, you know, kiddos with being on the spectrum. These are kind of our spectrum cases. And so that's where they kind of factor in. But once again, can be helped. We just have to unwind their nervous system, get it calmed back down. It's like with a raging bull, all we need to kind of do is just go in there and calm them down. We need to calm that nervous system down, bring up that parasympathetic nervous system of rest, digest, heal, all of those things. With our drunken bulls, we actually, where they've kind of tipped over that brink, we need to wake their system up first and then calm them down. Does that make sense there? So raging bull, calm, calm, calm. Drunken bull, we gotta wake that system up because it's become almost a little bit dormant. And then once they're awake, they might be showing a lot of activity. We then need to calm that back down. Kind of the same thing with the drunken raging bull kiddos in the spectrum cases that we have. To lastly touch base, like with the sensory kiddos, these are gonna be, what does my note say? Sorry, my handwriting's horrible. Okay, so these can sometimes look a little bit identical to like our ADHD kids. They're very sensitive, obviously sensory kiddos. So anything like their senses are just super hyper aware, very, very hyper aware. Which once again, hyper awareness or overstimulation of the senses, that means that our nervous system is once again overstimulated because our nervous system allows us to see, touch, smell, taste, hear. Sensory. It's what our nervous system does. Without it, we wouldn't be able to do those things. So these are high energy kids again, but with them, and if you have a sensory kiddo, they hate tags on shirts. They hate maybe like a slimy, mushy food. If they get glue on their hands or mud on their hands or, you know, water even, they freak out. They don't like it. So anything that deals with their senses, bright lights, too much flashing lights, loud noises, hate loud noises. I have a kiddo that they wouldn't be able to go do anything as a family, go to concerts, go to monster truck rallies, anything like that. And we started working with him and they finally got you because he couldn't even stand the noise or any, like, you know, too much visual, too much auditory, just sent him over the edge. And so with these kids, their body isn't unable to adapt even to those sensory processes, and that just triggers all of the stress that they already have built up within their system. These kiddos just show lots of energy on their scans. It's like it's just a high stress kid from the get-go, and this goes all the way back from like whenever they're in utero to how is their labor and delivery to, you know, did they suffer ear infections, colic, all of these things. It just shows a stressed nervous system within kids. They just keep, their stress hasn't been released, it keeps bottling up within their system. And so I like to talk about these, and like with these kids, and what chiropractic can do is give us a bigger bucket. Okay, you're like, okay, what are you talking about? So we're all given kind of like a bucket of how much stress we're able to take on. So let's say, you know, a kiddo has an ear infection. Let's put a teaspoon of, you know, water into that bucket. They have colic and reflux as a little baby as well. Let's put about, you know, half cup of water into that bucket. They grow up to be a little kiddo and they have a lot of hyperactivity, and like parents aren't understanding them, teachers aren't understanding them. Let's put a whole cupful of water into the bucket. They have one bad day at school. Let's put a half cup. They then have 18 bad days of school in a row. Let's put 2 cups of water in that bucket. It's like this bucket keeps building, but then we're all been given an innate drain. And what I mean by that is we all have a different size of a hole that our drain is going to be. Some of us have a big one that allows those stresses to dump out and to go out almost just as much as they're coming in. It's like their bucket really doesn't even fill. But then you have people, and you have little kiddos like these sensory kiddos, that their drain isn't very big. So each time we put something in the bucket, their stress isn't able to drain out because their body's unable to adapt to it because their nervous system and their body's so stressed and so overwhelmed. So the next time that bucket's almost booming and brimming over the edge and they have one more meltdown, or they have you put a tag on a shirt, or you accidentally feed them a banana and that texture just drives them crazy, you now have put that last half cup or teaspoon or whatever out, little bit left they have of that bucket, and it overflows. Now you know what I mean. They are tantruming, they are having their meltdowns, they are not doing well right here. And so once again, it takes, and if the drain in their bucket isn't able to drain, each time now from there on out is going to cause more stress. It's going to cause their bucket to keep overflowing, and now you have a lot more on your hands than what you thought. This is what's going on with these drunken raging bulls here, with all of them, all three kind of categories. So you can kind of imagine what's going on within their inside is now matching the outside. Okay, so with them, when with chiropractic, what we're able to do is either give somebody a bigger bucket, they're able to take on more, or we're allowing their drain to be a little bit bigger. So then like the stresses that do come into their body, they're able to let it flow out better. So then their bucket doesn't get full. It might reach, 3/4 of a level, but that drain's still working because, oh, here comes that one bad day. It's no longer a half of a cup that we're dumping in there. It might be a teaspoon. We're adapting to it. We're able to handle it. And so then that keeps draining out, and more stresses can come in, but we're now adapting to the stresses because our nervous system's able to go, okay, I don't perceive that as a threat anymore. Okay, that's not a threat. I don't have to be in fight or flight. Okay, that used to freak me out. Now I'm okay with that. I'm more calm because we've kicked on that brake pedal, that parasympathetic nervous system, and that is what's kind of ruling now versus that gas pedal. So that's where chiropractic comes in, and that's where it's so awesome and so great to work with these kids, is we bring the calm within their system. We bring that fight or flight down, we bring up the rest, digest, heal, grow, and develop. And like I say, the calm calms the crazy, and so we're kicking that stuff out and we're bringing in the good. Calming the nervous system now gives us a bigger bucket and a bigger drain. So that's kind of a big roundabout. I hope the analogies worked, and like I say, I hope those then made sense to you, and you can go, yes, that's my kid. Oh my gosh, somebody actually is saying exactly what I mean. That's what I get a lot of parents that come in and they're like, I just wish I would have known about this sooner. That's why I'm throwing this webinar on for you guys. If there's anything that I can do to help you, please reach out to me. I want to help these kiddos so much because they have so much potential. They do already, but I want them to flourish. I don't want them to live in this constant state of stress or fight or flight, because I've been there as an adult. It's not fun. So let's get their systems calmed back down so they can have a life that they love and they're excited about, and that they can feel like they're a little bit more in control of themselves. And then for you, mom and dad, look what that's going to do for you guys and your family. It's not going to be as much to handle, as much to endure, and it's just going to make your lives a little bit better, your family's lives a little bit better. And that's just my ultimate goal, is healthy kids equals healthy families. So if there's anything I can do to help, please reach out. Dr. Sam at SJL Wellness, and my number is 402-432-7702, or my email is sjlwellness@gmail.com. Be watching my Facebook page for the event next week, an in-house workshop. We'll get into a little bit more the nerdy neurology even more. So hope to see you guys there. If you want to do that, go ahead, shoot me an email and we'll get you on the list. Thank you.